Chapter 14. The Expansion of the Christ Knowledge. Josephus recorded that the Sanhedrin condemned James Herod, the gospel brother of Judas and Rabbi Jesus, to be stoned to death, but he escaped punishment. In 62, James arrived to settle in Britain just a year or so before Rabbi Jesus' death, and their Druidic beliefs were developed and expanded under his guidance. From around that time onwards, the Celtic Church reaffirmed its doctrines using the basic Essenic and Druidic traditions that were concerned primarily with education, agriculture, an ethical code, a strong sense of fraternity among its participants, and the transmission of the secret Christ knowledge. Their order was strictly monastic and was essentially based upon the teachings and social codes of Rabbi Jesus Canubulon. At this time, the Gospels we know today were yet to be written and therefore unknown to the early church in Britain. Although considered austere by the somewhat ostentatious Roman Church, the Celtic Church in time became popular throughout Europe, and many Celtic priests later took up church positions in Europe. The Celtic Church became a hereditary institution, with the high bishops in Britain being drawn generally from a dynastic family, and their office passing from father to son in many instances. Certain British gods and goddesses were subsequently incorporated into the structure, and the Celtic Church sponsored its own saints independently of the Roman Church. Through the ages, they included such well-known characters as Saint Bridget, Saint Patrick, Saint David, and Saint Columba. Although now generally perceived to have been part of the overall Christian movement, the ministry and doctrines of the British saints were totally divorced from what is now called the Roman Catholic Church. It was not until the 11th century that the Western Church became subjugated to Roman influence through the marriage of a hereditary Celtic priest to a Catholic heiress to the Saxon House of England. This affected certain aspects of the Celtic tradition and eventually led to the establishment of a British Bible, the King James Version, that differed substantially from the Roman Bible, the Vulgate Bible. Emperor Vespasian proclaimed Messiah. About 12 years after the stoning of Rabbi Jesus, around 66, Emperor Nero Claudius Caesar, 54 to 68, sent Flavius Sabinus Vespasian to the east to conduct a war against the Jews. His conduct of the conflict raised his reputation, and Vespasian was proclaimed emperor at Alexandria on the 1st of July, 69, and soon after all through the east. He traveled to Rome in the following year, leaving his son Titus to continue the war against the Jews. Josephus, the Jewish historian, was present with Titus at the siege of Jerusalem, and in 71 accompanied him to Rome, where both father and son triumphed together on account of the conquest of the Jews. Emperor Vespasian took possession of all Jewish religious artifacts that had previously been safely stored in the temple, including the precious Torah, and stored them in the Capitoline Jove in Rome. He then proclaimed the entire Jewish territory the Roman emperor's personal property and had his decision officially ratified by the Senate. He also ruled that the half-shekel yearly contribution of Jews the world over to their temple be redirected into a special fund, the Ficus Judaicus, and paid into the Capitoline Jove. Josephus recorded that Vespasian personally kept the Torah, revealing that it had at some time been recovered from Rabbi Jesus and replaced in the temple. Vespasian also took the colored priestly robes from the Jerusalem temple and stored them in a special room in his own palace on the Palatine Hill. The Roman emperor now owned the entire collection of Jewish religious artifacts that had been built up over many centuries. The great temple of Jerusalem was no longer, and the Jews had been disposed of their land, their treasure, and the physical substance of their religion. At a gala public forum, Josephus then applied the Essenic messianic prophecy to Emperor Vespasian and proclaimed him the deliverer, redeemer in some translations, of the people, for which Josephus received the freedom of the city from Vespasian. Josephus then assumed the name of Flavian family, Flavius, and was treated with great favor by Vespasian and his successors, Titus and Domitian. From that time on, and by legal inheritance, all subsequent Roman emperors were messiahs, but the Jews, referring the Masonic prophecy to themselves, rebelled. This was the beginning of a major religious problem that would not even start to be resolved until 325, the time of Emperor Constantine and the First Christian Council at Nicaea.